Hello, good afternoon, ladies. Welcome and thank you for joining me this afternoon. We're going to talk about what can we be doing? How much should your tweens be spending on their academics? We're thinking about homeschooling in particular. And then also, what else are they doing? I've been seeing things in some groups where parents are like, okay, how much time are your kids spending on schooling, and then what else are they doing? How are they filling their time? And in the tween years, this is kind of an interesting thing to talk about because we're moving from childhood where we were dictating almost everything they were doing every minute, and now we're moving into transitioning to this time where they have some more free time, but they maybe don't quite know what to do with their free time. So then they're pestering you saying, well, mom, what should I be doing? What am I supposed to be doing? And then you think, well, maybe we should be doing more schoolwork because we're homeschooling. Well, no, don't be doing more schoolwork. There will be a time enough for that. So we're going to dive right in and think about how much time should be spent on academics. I use this word should very loosely because there is no actual how much time should they. Now, you might have requirements based on your state or your province, or if you are with a school board and doing like online schooling, there might be certain requirements that you are obligated to meet. So in that case, that defines how much time that you're spending on those things. But if you are homeschooling and you're doing more like a self-directed approach, then you have more freedom in how much time you're spending on different things. When you are first entering those tween years, early, late elementary, early middle school, you're definitely going to be spending less time on academics that you will at the end of those tween years when you are heading into the teen years. And not only is there a time transition, there's also how much time you're spending altogether changes. Also, how much time you're spending per subject and how you're dividing those up through the course of your year. So in the early tween years, I know with my daughters, we had a fairly like a schedule flow. So every half hour, 45 minutes, we were switching into the next thing. So our day we did the same thing every day, pretty much. And then, you do 30 minutes of math, then you do 30 minutes of language arts, then you do 30 minutes of social studies, whatever. You're just like boom, boom, boom throughout the day until you had finished your day. And it wasn't really based on necessarily on, did we complete this unit of math in however long it took to get that done? It was like we were spending half an hour on it. Now, what happened there sometimes is in the transitions, as you're transitioning, if you have half an hour, really you're only doing about 20 minutes because by the time you get into the flow of doing the thing, you spent 10 minutes. And then you get into the flow of the next thing, but you've spent 10 minutes. So what I found is then I budgeted 45 minutes, and then we actually got about a half an hour of work done. Also budgeting for breaks and thinking about how I was organizing that day so that we had the brain energy. The girls had the brain energy they needed to do the heavy brain work when it was heavy brain work time. And then you go with something that's lighter on brain work. So you might do like math and then do some sort of physical activity, which requires different kind of energy. Come back to doing some creative writing, different kind of energy, reading, different kind of energy. So you manage the flow, this sort of up and down as you're going throughout your day. And then as far as the amount of time, there have been like a ton of studies. I don't have one to quote for this right this second, but two things. People that work hard to build up their focus can focus for about 90 minutes. So we generally go in these 90-minute focus cycles, but that is if you've trained yourself to be able to focus for 90 minutes. Your tween probably, I'm guessing, has not trained themselves to focus for 90 minutes. So you might be lucky to get 20 to 30 minutes of quasi-focus time. And again, you have that little buffer at the beginning, dive in, and then move on to the next thing. And then all together, they say, there's like been a bunch of studies. If you look at Cal Newport stuff, he talks about deep work. And some of the stuff our kids are doing, even at the middle school level, we need them to focus, to do that kind of deep work, meaning they're focused for that period of time to accomplish a task. Well, generally we have maybe like 3 or 4 hours in a day where we can have deep work and focus. So if we're saying adults that are able to build up their focus can do like 90-minute sessions. So if we're saying we have like 3 hours of focused work in a day, we really only have 2 big sections of focused work. If we break it down into 45-minute sections, then we would have 4 fairly deep work sessions. So then what do we do in addition to these academics? So if we say we have math, social studies, language arts, science, those are all pretty heavy, deep work things. What are we doing with the rest of the day? We've got 24 hours in a day. If you do schoolwork, like the academic, the study for 3 hours, there's a lot of hours left. Even if you take out, so if you've got 8 hours of sleeping and you've done 3 hours of work, so now we're at 11 hours. And let's say 3 hours for eating. So now we're at 14. We still have 10 hours. What are we doing for 10 hours? You know, there's time for bathing and tidying up the house. And then what? There's still a lot of time. So what are your tweens doing in addition to academics? And this is kind of fun to think about because we can think beyond to what are their gifts and talents? Where might they be heading in the long term? When we think of our kids as adults, what do we see their gifts and talents? What do we see where they are moving towards? And then how can we help them build skills in all of that, quote, extra time, where otherwise they would just be going like, well, what am I supposed to be doing now? And please, please don't just make busy work and worksheets, and it's soul sucking. They will hate school, and we want them to be loving learning. So how can we help them keep loving learning or develop a love of learning, develop the curiosity, and help them want to delve into some of these things that they are interested in, and they have time to do it. So they don't have to be rushing out to activities every second of the day. In fact, quiet time. Everybody needs quiet time, downtime. So we have academics, and then we also need some like downtime, reflective time, time to ourselves, and you probably need time to yourself. I know we started doing quiet time when the girls were super little. We started homeschooling, really needed the quiet time. And then as they progressed, even now, and they're at the tail end of high school and graduated, and they need quiet time. We need that time to like reflect, to just be with ourselves, figure out what we're thinking, and it makes everything much better. It's kind of a reset. Plus, if you've got these 10 hours to work with, why not take 2 of them for quiet time? I always told my daughters they could read, sleep, think, draw, play, whatever they wanted to do in their room, but no screens. And at first, they might kind of complain, like, I'm bored. I don't want to do this. Stick with it, and then they'll start asking for it. Once they realize, oh, okay, I can just be. I don't have to like perform. I don't have to try to answer questions. And then they start thinking about stuff. It's a very valuable skill to be able to sit with yourself, to entertain yourself, to be able to just do things by yourself. But also, in addition to academics, they can do music, other sports, and be involved in sort of these extracurricular things, youth groups, etc. And that is still education, but it's not their academics, but they're still learning. If they're on a sports team, not only are they learning about the sports, they're learning about teamwork, sportsmanship, and they're getting that physical activity, which actually is super important, especially if you are home most of the time. We want to keep our bodies active. If you want to keep your kids engaged and learning, they also need to not be sluggish. So they need to be out and about. I know, we take a break, go for a walk, or if things are getting kind of like squirrely, then I remember saying to them, okay, everybody up, 10 jumping jacks. Or we lived on a farm at one point. So I was like, okay, go run to the end of the field and back, whatever. Just go get your blood pumping and then come back. Baking, entertaining. So this is kind of fun. If you teach your kids how to bake stuff and then you invite people over, they can share what they've baked. That is also super satisfying. They can also start taking charge over their laundry. They have time to do their laundry. They have time to contribute to household chores. They have time to learn how to make a meal and make a meal on a regular basis. It's not child labor. It's part of living in this household and being part of this household, and they'll feel good doing it. Even if they complain sometimes, well, I don't want to do this, this is hard. It's because they're learning a new thing. So we think about how much time should be spent on the academics. And if you think, really, we've got 3 or 4 hours of heavy brain work in a day. And they're working up to that. So beginning of the tweens, they might only have capacity for 2. And then maybe they're playing Lego and listening to audiobooks for 4 hours. Great, let them do it. It is time well spent. Maybe they're sitting and reading all afternoon. Time well spent. Great. Maybe they have a play date and they are engaging well with their friends. Great. And then in addition to those academics, so now we've used this time for our brain work. Now we need to do some other things to develop other life skills, curiosity, and being part of the household. Education as a lifestyle. So we talk about homeschooling, and there are so many different kinds of homeschooling. I don't think that there would be one family that homeschools the same as another. There are a ton of different philosophies. So you have a ton of different philosophies, and then you also have a bunch of different ways to educate your child at home, whether you're getting tutors, whether they are teacher directed but are at home, whether you are directly teaching them, whether they are learning directly from a video or a workbook, whatever the case, you can, as the mom, set the tone for this educational lifestyle. And it totally changes the game. It takes the pressure off. You see the long game and you see, okay, by the time they're here, we want to do these kind of academics. Therefore, I'm building up here so I can later do these things over here. And in addition to that, we're talking about what can they do in addition to these academics. That's where we're building relationships in the family, building relationships outside of the family. They are learning how to interact, how to communicate. They're learning how to keep their stuff organized. They're learning how to participate in the household, to contribute. And it's just a lifestyle of learning. So then you say, oh, we're having company on Sunday. Can you make a pie? And they go, I've never made a pie. Okay, well, if you just make it that this is the normal part of what you do, then it's not unusual for you to say, well, why don't you go see if you can find a recipe? What kind of pie do you like? Oh, I like apple pie. Great. So go ahead and find a recipe. Then they have to learn a little bit about researching. Now they're learning about following a recipe. Then they're going to actually make the recipe. You're going to get some sort of result. Make sure you have extra ice cream or whipped cream in case the crust is tough or whatever. Don't make a big deal of it. They're just learning, and they're learning about hospitality. They're learning about baking. They're learning about reading directions, measuring, following instructions, a whole ton of things that aren't academic, but are super important and transferable skills. So they make the pie, and the next time, oh, my friend's coming over. Can I make some cookies? Sure. Go find a recipe. They do it, and they start taking charge, and and this is just a lifestyle of learning. When I was going to, well, I guess it would be high school, we had foods class or home economics, and that's what we did. We learned how to make stuff. So when they're in the kitchen making stuff, call it home ec if you want. If you need to have like a fancy title for calling that some educational thing, or if you need to give them a grade on something, whatever, depending what kind of requirements you have in your state or province. But then just have it as part of your lifestyle. It's not necessarily now we're having home ec. It's like intentionally looking for opportunities for them to build their skills. So as we were talking about how much time should be spent on academics, I'd say not more than 3 or 4 hours, and start with 1 or 2 in the early tween years, depending on your tween's capacity for deep focus, and build that up, because when they get to the high school years, they do need more capacity for deep work. So build that up over time. And then in addition to those academics, encourage curiosity. Try to be the mom that says, yes, let's explore that. Yes, why don't you try that? Even if you know, that's probably going to fail. If it's not going to cause like major damage or be super expensive for them to find out on their own, let them figure it out. They're going to learn a ton. And it's going to be part of their education. And then we have, like I said, this education as a lifestyle. It will take the pressure off if you just can have sort of more like a routine. This is the routine that we do, but we have an attitude of learning and this lifelong learning. And it is totally worth it. If you want to talk about how to set up those academics for your kids, or you're not sure exactly what your kid could do outside of academics, and you're going, how do I keep them occupied? All they want to do is play video games all day. What else can we do? And to be clear, there's nothing wrong with having some entertainment throughout the day as part of your routine, as part of your lifestyle. But if you are looking for ideas, please drop me a note. I would be happy to connect with you. We can set aside a time, spend 15 minutes brainstorming some ideas, and that might be helpful for you. Super happy to help. And in the meantime, enjoy homeschooling as an educational lifestyle.